Alright folks, just a moment ago I showed you how we had cut the top off of the 7-gallon tank and removed a large section, a circular section out of this larger tank. And what I've done here is I ground the metals to make sure there's going to be a clean weld on both tanks, and I've tack welded now across this thing around all over the place. That's going to give us our first preliminary weld to it. The other thing that I've done here, and you're going to notice this ring, whoever welded this on, I would have loved to have had that welded on there square originally, but it's not. So I'm going to end up having to cut it off. I had to put my hole to true square here. So you can see a 4-inch output hole here in our reduction area. We're going to go ahead now and implement some of our pipes in here. Drill holes and put our airflow pipes into the reactor here. We're going to have 2 sets. One's going to come in right here, right above that final burn hole. And one's going to come in right here to allow for air to flow through a large chamber of charcoal. I have a feeling that the bigger the chamber of charcoal I can put the smoke through, the cleaner that gas is going to get before it gets out and into my radiator system and finally into the engine. So I wanted to show you real quick where I was, just not far from where I showed you before. The only difference is I have tack weld and ground, and I put the 4-inch hole here in the top. As you can see now, I can tilt the whole thing as one. It is one giant reactor. So I'm going to flip it over and show you what it looks like from the inside. Alright, so now I've flipped it over the way it's supposed to go. You're going to notice the relative height to this system. I wanted a long distance traveling unit. I didn't want a short distance unit, so this should be able to give me quite a ways before I have to refill this reactor. This is going to stick up in that truck a little ways out above that cab, obviously. So let me go ahead and just show you what we've got going on here for a lid to fill with our material. And as you can see, what it is, it's actually the disc cut out of the other side. I made sure that it was larger than the hole we cut out of this side, which you can see there. So that's where we're going to fill our material into the reactor. It's going to go all the way down and finally burn down in the very bottom down there. I don't know how clear this is going to show up, but you should be able to see down in there a bit. See our final hole all the way at the bottom? Alright, so that's what it looks like inside. I can put the lid back on. And I'm going to make now a mount for that lid so it's able to seal really tight. You'll notice there's no air gap. That makes just a perfect seal right there. I'm just going to make it now so that it can actually blow by if there was a pop back inside of our gasifier reactor. This will actually have a spring to allow it to pop up. Probably about that high if it needs to be. So that's some of the next steps here, and I'll go ahead and show you that when I get it done. Alright folks, go ahead and just show you a step more into the project here. As you can see, these welds have been fully completed all the way around, making sure that that's nice and sealed. There's no air leaks between the two of them. I've done a little bit of a test to make sure. And what you see here is a handle from the top of a propane tank. Looks just like this. I flattened out the loop over though. These were folded up on themselves. This one has actually an air gap around it. I don't like them to cover this. That one I could pound all the way closed. It left me 2 perfectly open sides right here, and matching on this one, as you can tell looking through there. We're going to line those up. Let me walk you around and show you. We've cut a much bigger hole in here, and to get that hole diameter, what I did is cut off the bottom ring that was already attached to the propane tank, because whoever had originally welded it on there had set it off center so much that I couldn't use it. So I've cut it off, and that's about the same size as the hole right here, so we're reducing one more time. So 3 stages of reduction here, and then I'll show you when we get this all done what's the next step, but let me go walk you around here. So I've now completed my weld on this side, walked it around, and now I'm going to go ahead and form the other handle here and put it on right here. Let me go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll attach another plate around this, which I'll show you when we get to it. And I'll also attach the other side of the bell up on top right here. Let me go ahead and grab that for a second, show you what that's going to look like, if it'll stay up there correctly. Okay, let me back off of that a bit. So there you go. That's what that's going to look like towards the very end. That's the end of the system right there. It's going to rebell outwards like that. We're going to use the top end of that propane tank for that bell out. It's going to go through the reduction zone here. That's where the smaller zone is. And then back into the bell and then to the screen. and that's going to make sure that we get as much of the paralysis as we can. And actually most of the burn action is going to be taking place up around our top line, and that's going to actually force the smoke to have to go through a compact layer of charcoal, which will help burn out a lot of the impurities that are going to clog up our engines, and then also help convert a lot more of that to either hydrogen or carbon monoxide. So let me keep going here and I'll show you when I get a little bit further on. Alright, real quickly here, I wanted to update you on the progress that I'm making. As you can tell here, if I walk around, that whole circular section there, made out of those two upper handles of the propane tanks, is fully welded on there, ready to go. You can see the upper bowl put on there now. Let me show you what we've done inside of there. So there you go, there's a hole cut inside of that bowl, and this hole right now is about 1 inch of reduction between it, if you notice across my finger, between it and the edge of the inside. So it's going to reduce one more time before entering into this bowl. So if I take that off of there, you can see what we've got here. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to do some work about right around the center right here right now, attaching pieces, strengthening this up. This is going to get really hot right here. So I'm going to add some extra steel here real quickly before I put that bowl on top. I'll show you once we've had that extra steel and the bowl welded on, I'll show you what we're doing next.